Welcome to the Sacred Circle, a podcast about all things spiritual and mystical. From magic to meditation, from consciousness to ceremony, this podcast is dedicated to all of you seekers after truth out there. This is an invitation to all of you who still believe in magic, to all of you who respect the unseen, to all of you who don't take myths, legends, and ghost stories for granted. I am your host and guide, Dr. Alex. I don't claim to be an expert, a master practitioner, a shaman, or a medicine man. What I am is a seeker after truth. Welcome to the Sacred Circle. Join us every week on Binge on This, where you can find other shows like Happy News with Perry Kurtz, This, That, and the Other, Reading Ronin, What's Hood with Forever Cabron. Looking forward to delving into the unseen with you every week.
Buenos días, buenas tardes, y buenas noches. Welcome to Caldo de Risa. I am here at the studios where we record with my good co-host and friend, Mr. Bryan TV. And this is a very special episode because we are joined today by my cousin from across, not the pond, but the States, a good cousin of mine, Jorge Garavito. He lives over there in Miami, Florida, and I just came back from a European cruise with him and a large part of our family. So, I don't know. I'm here right now, and Jorge, how's it going, man? How are you?
Good. It's 10 o'clock here, a little bit sleepy because I've been up till 5, but it's good. I'm doing good. How about you? How's everything over there?
I'm doing great, Jorge. I really am. I'm here. This is my co-host, Bryan. Bryan, this is Jorge.
Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Hey.
Hey, thanks so much
nice
for taking the time
you.
to talk to us.
No, I love it. I'm honored to be on this show.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
for having me.
Of course.
So Danny explained to you that this is sort of like a show about Colombian culture and basically that Danny and I met because we just didn't feel Colombian enough.
Right.
And so we started essentially a podcast between two guys who never really felt being Colombian. And so we talk about Colombian food, Colombian culture. We talk about the things that we think make Colombians. And we also talk about the things that we feel like we're lacking in being Colombian. So you're actually our first guest that wasn't a live person that we've, that we haven't really, had in room. So I'm very interested to be able to pick your brain because there's so many guests that we haven't had a chance to get in because they're so far away.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of questions that we're super excited.
This definitely opens the doors. This opens the doors for not only other Colombians but also Garavitos. He's a cousin of mine through. Let's try to see if we could explain it better. You're part of like a family, but like not my family, just the bigger family that my family's friends with. Is that correct?
Well, at the end of the day, how I understand it is your dad was my dad's cousin, and that's how we're connected. So we're still, and we always had that close relationship. So we always consider ourselves just cousins, not second or third or fourth or whatever it is.
Yeah, because it's a little confusing.
Cousins,
you might as well just say we're cousins. Just get it over with. It is what it is. We're cousins.
That's
and
the easier thing.
I'm happy to be your cousin, man.
How long have you and Danny known each other? Like how much, I guess, did you guys grow up like primos or did you see Danny every few months or what was your relationship with Danny?
So it's an off and on relationship because we met at some point when we were young because Danny and his family always lived in Orlando, and I basically most of my life I always lived in Miami, and we met once or twice, but then at the end of the day, until we didn't grow up, we didn't really had this connection, and we're able to create that relationship that we have now.
That's a very positive way of describing it. Yeah. It's something like that because.
But I love the show. I love the concept because I have
really
one of my cousins. Her both sons. They've never felt well. One of them feels 100% Colombian, but the older son doesn't feel that he's very Colombian. I think he goes through the same thing you guys go through. He says he's Colombian, But when he goes to the university, he has like he tried to make Colombian friends, and they're looking at him like, "No, you're not Colombian. You barely even know what Colombia means."
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally the title. You know, when we started, we were like, nobody's gonna understand what we're talking about. So to hear someone else like that kind of that's very well. Let him know where to come and listen to us.
Sure,
if he has any questions.
It'll be nice to eventually have him as a guest on the show. In regards to that, I know Jorge because, you know, we're family and we'll hang out, but like I don't remember hanging out with you enough as a kid. Just I remember hanging out with other Colombian people. Sometimes they were the Garavitos and sometimes they were just like my mom or dad's friends or whatever. So I think really what kind of made us aware of each other is actually you're not only one of the few family members outside of my immediate family that I've gone on vacation with. But on the first cruise, which is, I think, really the first time I knew who you were and everything, you encouraged me to do stand-up on the cruise ship. And that was very interesting because that was not like 50 people big like this last family reunion we had, but it was still a lot. And I just wanted to get your opinion on it really quickly. What did you think of my jokes? Because I never asked you, and you're the one that drove me to do stand-up on the ship in the first place, which I loved, but also at the time I hated because I was like, I'm not even that funny. But I did it 4 nights. I might have offended some people. I don't know if I offended you, but I just want to know what you thought.
No, I love them. I think you're very original, and that's the important thing. And the most important thing is that you enjoy it, and you can see that every time you're telling a joke or you're just imitating someone or doing what you do best, you know, you can tell you love it, and that for me that's more important. That's what makes you special, and you're gonna, you know, you'll probably go a long way that way.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. It's honestly a vote of confidence. My family, my mom and my dad probably feel the same way. They don't know how to say it as well, but you do. So thank you for that, Jorge, because, you know.
Let's get into these questions.
I know
we got a time difference, and you know, you got a little kid and everything, but let's get into this, man. Let's ask some questions.
Yeah, well, just to jump right in, Jorge, how do you feel having come back from Spain as like a country for like Colombians to visit versus live? Like, did you have a good time visiting Spain when we were there? And did you feel like maybe could you see yourself living there if the circumstances were right?
So I've been to Spain twice.
Yeah.
And both times I've only been to Barcelona, and what they tell me, Barcelona is very different to what Spain is really like. They even have a different language and, you know, just a little bit of a different culture. But even then, if you ask me how it would be for Colombians living there, I think they would love it. Maybe the difficult part is it's not really just because the easy part is that both coaches speak Spanish to a certain point, because again, Barcelona, people from there speak Catalunya.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think it's just a good experience because what I like about Colombians is, or in general, people are meant to adapt. So there's a lot of positive things, a lot of things that I saw and I really love. That for me, Barcelona was one of those, like, especially in summer, it's one of those cities that doesn't sleep. There's always something to do.
Yeah.
So I love walking at 9:00 at night because there was still light outside, and just walking around and being able to do a little bit of everything.
Barcelona felt like very much like that. Yeah, it felt like a kind of like a vacation place, but also like a place where you could kind of call it home if you knew your way around the city. It's a lot more massive than I remember. It's been like maybe 10 years since I've last been there, and it was just swarming with people all the time. Pedestrians walking through the cars, everybody in the shops, everybody in the streets, everybody on bikes. It felt like chaotic, but like in a cozy way that didn't feel as grimy as maybe some would suggest New York is or something, you know?
I agree with you 100%. And the other thing I loved about Barcelona, me personally, it was that I saw people doing sports all the time, like almost everywhere.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what
cool.
part of the city, you would see people taking advantage of the summertime, right? before it gets colder over there. But I really thought that was nice. The only thing that, I love the food, but I love the food to a certain point. That would be the hard part for me, living there and eating eating day to day the same food, even though we were over there. And guess where we went to?
Where did
we went to a Colombian restaurant,
of course,
and then we went to a Venezuelan.
When in Rome, yeah. My mom
God.
could sniff out a restaurant in Iowa. She could find a Colombian restaurant in Iowa. She's just got a nose.
That's so crazy. So that happened when you guys were still there after I flew out of Barcelona and all that.
Hilarious.
That's so. I'm jealous of that.
Especially because of the baby.
Yeah,
Just
the
because
baby.
of the baby, she's so used to having, after being in the cruise 7 days and not eating what she's used to eating.
Yeah.
So we were like, all right, let's make it feel a little bit more like home, since my wife is Colombian too, and she usually cooks the traditional Colombian food. So we're like, all right, let's go somewhere so the baby can have one of her typical meals that she would have day to day. So we loved it. It was really good.
That's awesome.
That just proves that there's already Colombians living there.
Yeah, already. How did you feel? In LA, there's a lot of Chicano pride, Mexican pride. There's like I have a lot of friends who are particularly touchy about the subject of like colonization and the idea that this land was taken, originally by like conquistadores and all of this stuff. Like, do you, when you go to Spain or something like that, or even in your own life, do you have an innate sense of Colombian patriotism? Are you somebody who views, Spain as a conquistador, as people who came in and ravaged our land? Where are you on the, kind of spectrum of, that type of patriotism,
To be honest, I think that was so long ago. I know everyone has to, you can't forget your past to understand, where you want to go. It's good, but for me, it was so long ago. I can't hold people accountable for something that, I wasn't able to experience myself. I've always been the person that before I judge, or even if I have all the facts, but before I do any of that, I want to be there. I want to understand. I actually want to see, because it's not the same, just reading it from a book for me. It's personal experience.
Yeah. And
so when your parents say, don't drink, right? And I'm like, you can't, drinking is the worst thing, but I have to try it first, because if I don't try it, I can't give you my opinion if it is the worst thing.
Yeah. You kind of have to go through your own experience to know what it's like for you personally. And I will say that's a good point both of you guys made, like on the sense that, hey, it's been so long ago, and B, like it's something that did happen. But also, and this kind of leads into my next question, Spain supposedly is the only place that knows how to speak Spanish better than Colombians. And I'm a little iffy about that, because one, I don't know if Spain really, I don't know if I like their Spanish. That's my biggest complaint. I don't like how they use the theta and all that. I think it's really annoying. But on the other hand, is Colombian Spanish the best Spanish? And if so, why is that? Is there a connection between them and Spain, or did we originate like a modern slang? What's your perspective on that? Because that's a hotly debated topic amongst Latin America.
Well, I'm not an expert, but just with my baby, just putting like Mickey Mouse. So there's two versions of Mickey Mouse in Spanish. You have Latin America, so she could hear it, or she could hear it in a Spanish, Spain, or whatever version. And it's crazy because it does make a big difference on the words and for me, the slang, for example, that they might use. Mm-hmm. Why is Spanish from Colombia considered like the best Spanish, I guess? Because it's more proper. Yeah. Even when you're speaking Spanish, it's just more proper, less slang. And then when you go to Colombia, you could go inside Colombia, every region, everyone speaks different. There's different accents and everything, but still, what they say is the people from the capital, from Bogota, have the most proper and, Spanish because of that, because there's barely any slang, and the slang you do have, it's more like for younger, but it's just that traditional Spanish. And when you're speaking it, you also take the pauses, and it's just a little bit more different.
That's interesting.
that's what my perspective, right?
Right.
I'm not an expert, but that's what I see, and that's what I've heard when I am speaking to my coworkers that probably are from Chile or from Costa Rica or even from Ecuador. You can tell when they're together, for example, and they're talking to each other. I barely can understand them, and I speak perfect Spanish, and I can't even understand what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh my God! What did you just say? Can you just go a little bit slower? And I think that happens everywhere, right? At the end of the day, I grew up in Miami, but if I go to New York and I try to go to Brooklyn and talk to someone from Brooklyn, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. Or even Australia, right? I had once a really good friend from Australia, and it was kind of difficult to understand him at the beginning because they have so much slang that we weren't used to here in the States. So, yeah.
That's very cool.
Basically.
Danny and I are fascinated with Colombian-born Colombians and American-born Colombians. Where were you born here in Colombia?
Well, he's in Miami right now.
Right, but was he born in Colombia, or were your parents Colombian and you were born here?
So my story's a little bit crazy. I was born in Colombia, but my parents moved to California when I was 9 months old.
Me too, bro. I came to Virginia when I was about 3 years old. Okay, but isn't that interesting, Danny? He has an accent, and I don't. I have no accent. I came here when I was... Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. That's crazy. That's cool.
That's very interesting. I find it maddening sometimes that I don't know how I have an accent, and then my whiter friends tell me, oh, you definitely have an accent. So I guess you be the tiebreaker. What do you think plays into someone... It's you or someone like you.
He grew up in a proud... Was your family a proud Colombian family? Did you come home and have flags?
I guess I might be. Yeah,
Colombian
that's it,
flags on your wall. Did you know who the Saints were? So yes, all this... I mean...
Well, yes, but you know what's the biggest difference? I grew up in Miami.
And that's you're surrounded, absolutely surrounded. I grew up in Virginia. I have no... That's why I sound like Danny. I sound like Danny because I just grew up with rednecks. I spent my whole life with just... people in camouflage, and so but I have 3 years in Colombia before I came over here. But I don't know, it's stuff like that kind of makes me like, wow, like that's so cool, like that's crazy.
That's a fast. Well,
and then
the
other difference is that after when I was about 15, I moved back to Colombia for about 15 years as well. So,
that'll do it. Yeah, you hit that one. You snuck that under home plate. He's like.
That's when I actually learned Spanish.
Oh, okay. Yeah. See, that makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it interesting. I think no matter in what culture, I think other than like maybe the American culture, like now, I mean, we're getting to a point now where there's that type of like insane nationalism, but it's like even like. I mean, I remember learning that there were more than just Mexicans in the world, right? Like, I always, for the longest part of my life, just thought that anybody who spoke Spanish that wasn't Colombian was Mexican. And then you move out to Los Angeles or you meet other people, and it's like, it's not just Mexican. There's El Salvador, there's Salvis, there's, de Guatemala, de todos. I mean, the whole place, Honduras, de los demás, and everything. And it's like, even them, they, within their own culture, are like, well, you aren't born in Salvi. You didn't come, you were born. So it's like, I don't know. I don't really know what I mean in that regard. But I just find it so interesting. It's like, here we have 3 Colombian dudes, who all sound different from each other, who all have like, like this like cultural bond that we don't really fully understand, but like we can still understand it. It's kind of like this weird mystic.
It's beautiful.
It's very cool. It's very cool. Ask him about how he wants to raise his kid.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that's what I was gonna. What's so funny? I can't remember having met your wife before, but from what I know of her, she's a wonderful woman, and she's Colombian from what you said. I didn't know that. I thought she was like from Puerto Rico or Cuba or somewhere, maybe just because you're in Miami. But I was going to ask a question, which I guess is different now because you're both Colombian. Therefore, your kid's 100% Colombo, right? Colombian, not Colombo. That's the TV show.
I'm just gonna let you embarrass.
But yourself. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying is that like your daughter Victoria, such a sweetheart. She's like the sweetest old thing. How do you feel like you guys go about like
do you guys speak Spanish in front of her at home? Yeah. Like, what's the game plan as far as that's concerned? Like,
For us, it's 100% important she learns both languages. Because
Interesting.
again, since I had that experience, for real, I didn't know Spanish. Like I would understand Spanish, but I wouldn't speak it as much. And so I actually moved to Colombia, and then I learned how to read. Basically in ninth grade, I learned how to read, write, and I had to do everything in Spanish to prepare myself to study in the university over there where everything was in Spanish. So, and that's opened a lot of doors for me in my career, having both languages and actually dominating both languages. Because there's some people that say they speak Spanish, but at the end of the day, when they're going to write an email, professional email in Spanish, they're not able to do it as well. So it's very important, like that. That's what we want to push with our baby, you know, that she has to understand both languages, read, write, everything. And it's difficult, to be honest. Even though we live in Miami, we have a show that we love. It's called Miss Rachel. She's awesome, but she teaches her only English, or mostly English, not only, and even sign language and everything. And you can tell that she's learning a lot faster in English than what she's learning in Spanish, even though we speak to her every day in Spanish, just because of that show. And her school, her teacher talks both in Spanish and English, but she goes to a Montessori school, but still, her preschool, her kindergarten, because she's only one, her daycare, basically. But still, we think it's very important. And obviously, we want her to learn about her culture, because Colombia is a beautiful country. It's awesome to go visit, everything, to be there. You ask, where do I want to retire? Well, how prices are going up here in the United States, I'm probably going to head back to Colombia anyway, because it's a great place to just sit back and relax. If you have, you know, the money and, you know, you're
having the resources and all that. Yeah. It's wonderful. We have, actually, I guess it's your uncle, and for all intents and purposes, it's another one of my cousins. But Pacho, our Uncle Pacho, your Uncle Pacho, right? He's one of the Garavitos out of a huge family, which we should get into at some point. He has like a giant plot of land in Colombia, right? Like it's just like a huge grassy knoll with a house and everything. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. Because that's a little bit normal, and not where he has it really, but it's normal to buy just a big, you know, plot of land.
Yeah, absolutely.
Buy a big area of land and then build your house there. And he has a beautiful house in the mountain, very exclusive, very nice, and I love going there. Even when I went back to Colombia, that was the first place I lived.
That's awesome.
So I was lucky
really nice
to live in that. It was very nice, but there was nothing. At that time, there was nothing to do there. I didn't have a car. I was 16. I just wanted to go out. There was no way to talk to people. Inviting people over was crazy, but still, it was an experience. It was nice. His house is very nice. And you asked me if I want to go retire in the mountain. No, I see myself in the coast of Colombia, right next to the beaches.
Yeah, like more towards like Cartagena or Santa Marta, somewhere like that.
Yeah,
very
Santa
nice.
Marta, I think it's beautiful and very nice and upcoming. So, you know, there's a lot of potential there.
How do you feel, just because I'm looking at the time and I don't want to eat too much of his time up. We'll have him back on, but I'm just looking at your time and his time. How do you feel about Colombian culture being portrayed in media? Danny and I would have discussions. Just Danny doesn't. What is it? You tell him. I don't want to speak for you, but Danny's whole thing is he doesn't like the way the Colombians are portrayed in film and movies.
I think Colombian culture, unfortunately, from at least Americans and perhaps most of the world, I think there's a lot of stigma against Colombians, but it's like positive supposedly, but it's about, you know, cocaine and everything, and Pablo Escobar. But like, we're more than that. We're more than narcos. We're more than Pablo Escobar. We're more than like the guerrilla like warfare and everything that goes on. Like
Farca.
I make jokes about it sometimes. I'm like, okay, I wish more people would make fun of us for like our coffee or our bananas or Shakira or something, you know. And so I guess.
How do you feel about it?
Yeah, how do you feel about it? And do you think like media is getting better at showing us? Because it's kind of, but like it's taking a while.
Or do shows like Narcos hurt us?
Process. I think at the end of the day, it's a process because it is our history, right? All those things did happen, but the problem is the way that they show it, right? The way that Netflix shows Narcos is that they make him a hero. He was, for me, he was a great entrepreneur, but he still killed people. He still harmed. He gave back to a lot of Colombian families, but he still killed people.
Yeah.
He still made Colombia a very unsafe place. Now, when I went to Colombia, again, about 20 years ago, when I first moved there, it was still very unsafe. You would barely see any tourism. Now, when I go back, you see so much tourism. You see so much people from Europe, Asia. You see people from America moving there to Medellin and everything. It's crazy. It's driven prices up and everything. How many people have started living there? It's just crazy. So, but going back a little bit to the question, it's going to take a while, but people like Shakira, Disney making the movie Encanto, Shakira, Carlos Vives, just all the soccer team. Everyone thought that the Colombian soccer team, it helps.
Caliuchis, she's Colombian.
Yeah, the musician Caliuchis. Yeah.
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Yeah.
Bad Bunny, no, he's Puerto Rican.
Oh.
Who are we thinking of?
I think you're thinking J Balvin.
Yeah.
J Balvin.
J Balvin, yeah.
J Balvin.
You let me do it. Sofia Vergara.
So all these artists have changed that or are changing it little by little, but they're changing. They're never gonna forget the past or history, because at the end of the day, that's what sells, right?
Yeah.
You're always gonna.
Yeah, you're always going to push the thing that makes you the most popular. So.
I mean, it's exciting though, because if Colombia goes through with like the FIFA, the women's FIFA World Cup, they're in the women are, the men weren't, but the women are in the World Cup, and that's exciting because I mean, could you imagine like Colombia winning the World Cup title at all, men or women? I wouldn't care. I'd be happy if the women win it, because it's just like that's more positive reinforcement, more positive representation, more things that make me proud to say, hey, I'm Colombian and I don't have cocaine. But you have many more reasons to love me. You have my empanadas. You have my Botero paintings. You have the way I call your pantuflas sandalias. You know, like you have all sorts of things. It's positive reinforcement. Yeah. Which, by the way, I need to ask. Go on. Yeah,
we have the party buses. We love
the
party
buses. I keep forgetting that. Yeah,
and some of the best rotisserie chicken, like charbroiled chicken ever. Like those chicken joints that you can just.
Colombia knows how to cook their meat.
They know how to whip up their meat, bro. Yeah, you know we have the emerald trade. Like we have a lot of cool stuff, man. Like,
what is your, if you had your final meal?
Yeah,
what would it be?
Final Colombian meal.
Final Colombian meal.
The thing that. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's difficult because there's so many.
Gun
good
to your
things.
head.
But for me,
daughter under boot.
You know what it would be?
What would it be?
Arepa de huevo.
Oh, wow. That's a crazy pull. Really?
That's very nuanced.
Yeah, that's a deep cut. Did your mom make that a lot, or that's your favorite kind of like?
No. But every time I go to Cartagena, Santa Marta, I have to have a really good arepa de huevo, and I love it. It's just.
Simple,
my mom doesn't make it. It's just
classic. Yeah, bro. Yeah. You know what that is? That's Indiana Jones picking his grail at the end of Raiders of is it Raiders of the Lost Ark? Or
I'm not. I think so. Maybe.
Yeah, when he picks the grail, that's not the flashy grail. It's like the nice grail, the wood grail. Yeah, that's the perfect.
That's
answer.
An interesting one for me. I think just a simple caldo. You know, just like a soup with like what do you call it? Potatoes.
Yeah, a little caldo de papa,
You have some steak. You have some steak bones in there. What else do you have? You have
cumin, onion, cilantro. You throw a little carrot, some celery in there. You get a little sancocho going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so many.
That'd be mine.
There's so many different types of foods to like. And another question I wanted to ask is that like we were on this cruise for a week with 50 of our family all together, like 50 people, all ranges, everywhere from as young as Victoria to as old as I guess who was the oldest person there? I guess my Uncle Mark. I don't know.
You know, Uncle Mark. Come on.
No, Uncle Mario. But like, I mean, how did that feel? I think being with all our cousins, all the uncles, aunts,
that's kind of cool.
Like how did it feel reconnecting with everybody after the pandemic, especially on a cruise ship? and realizing like, oh, like we come from different understandings of not only Colombia, but of the world.
Sick.
I really enjoyed it, but I think in this cruise, different from the cruise we did back a few years ago, we should have done more activities to integrate everyone a little bit more, because basically in this cruise, since it was like, you would stop in every country and you want to take advantage and everyone wanted to go see something different.
Yeah.
We really didn't share a lot of moments like we could have, like our families did, right?
Yeah. I got to hang out with you particularly. But it was such a big group.
And your mom and dad.
Yeah, it was such a big group. Everybody kind of had to go into small little pools anyway, because everybody had different needs. You know, we had some people get sick. We had some people that had kids. We had some people who had like, aging. I think Maria Paula, she was not your sister, but your cousin. She was sick. There's so many of them. It's hard to tell who's a sister and who's a brother and who's a cousin.
Oh yeah, you're a bad family member.
But she was pregnant. And that's another interesting thing to mention. The one thing we did do together, besides the dinners, was a gender reveal. And you were in charge of that. You were the only one that knew the gender of the baby. How did that feel presenting that to our family?
Me and our other cousin Kata, because she's the godmother and I'm the godfather of Maria Paula's baby. But it was interesting. We were excited because we were planning it for like basically 4 months already, trying to get everything together on time and making sure that it would go smoothly on the cruise, and it basically did. I hope you guys enjoyed it, to be honest.
I loved it.
We wanted to make a whole experience out of it, right, at the end of the day. And cool. But again, the only thing I would have done different is like we should have done a game night, because like good Colombians, we wanted to party every night, but we should have done a game night. We should have done
a murder mystery night or something. An
excursion, everyone together, something like that. Just a little bit different, just to make sure that the whole family could have participated and just.
I went a little crazy. I went a little crazy with all the partying, because at one point I was like a dance monster. It's like, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. Do you think I have some moves? Because I've seen you have moves. But
can you hear how he's like, "Tell me I'm good. Tell me my comedy's funny.
No.
But I mean, I dance well."
No, but I mean, I'm a very like shy person around big groups. Like I socialized a lot with Jorge and his wife and
you weren't cracking jokes and cracking wines.
No, I didn't do stand-up.
You weren't doing bits for him.
No, but I mean, like, there's something about dancing that like unleashes the inner Colombian for all of us, right? Don't you agree?
He went crazy. He was awesome. Everyone was recording him. He seemed very modest.
Yeah, of course.
He made everyone. The whole cruise was just on top of us, looking at us, because I saw him dancing. He was dancing there, and then I was with my cousins, because we were just like, let's say. We were in the table. We saw him dancing. We were like, all right, let's grab our drinks and let's go dance with him. And then he just started dancing like, Amazing. Like there was no tomorrow. He just went crazy. And we're like, all right, let's have fun.
Yeah, and truly starting the party.
It was crazy. They had to carry me back to my room when it was too much.
Oh, no.
And then we had to carry him.
Good thing there were 50 of you guys there to help him.
Yeah.
Do you have any final questions before we let your cousin go?
Well, I got to ask you, man. I mean, like, Encanto, you gotta dig what it does for Colombia, right? Or do you think it's a so movie? How did you feel about it when you watched it? Because that's an ongoing debate between me and Bryan. I love Encanto. He has some thoughts about it. We want to hear from you about it.
I love it. It's obviously not going to represent Colombia 100% because it's just representing maybe one region of Colombia. It tried to do a lot, but you can't do everything in just one movie, right?
Yeah.
Especially with our Colombian culture. For example, the movie Coco, right? The movie that represents Mexico, I think, perfectly. But if you go ask someone from Mexico, they'll probably, and I love Mexican culture too, and they'll probably say, no, it doesn't represent it 100%, but there were important factors, but not 100%. Same thing with Encanto. I think they mentioned very important things like the flowers, just a lot of things, the coffee. They showed the different types of even hats and just the happiness of the people that when you go to Colombia, that's what I think everyone loves, because what all my friends that are not from Colombia and have visited Colombia have told me is they just love how people are so, warming, and they'll just welcome everyone in, and they bring everyone in, and they'll bring them in even to their house and everything. Just welcome everyone in, and that's not normal, right? I feel that used to happen here a lot in the States, or maybe just because I live in Miami now. But that's changed so much. The Miami culture, that doesn't happen anymore. Maybe it's because there's just too many cultures here now. Yeah. But before, when I used to live here, I remember that you would share a lot more with your neighbors. I don't see that doesn't happen anymore. So again, I just answering a whole bunch of things, but that's just the way I feel. Encanto, I love it. So many good things. Again, could there be more? Yeah. Colombia is so big. There's so many things that they could do. They need an Encanto 2 and 3 maybe.
Right, but, we need an Infinity Saga Marvel like Encanto.
But even the music, the music was very nice to even, feel identify that a huge part of that movie was even the music. And, the music for us in Colombia is very important. So I'm glad that they were able to represent it and use Colombian artists at the end of the day.
Yeah, they used Carlos Vives in that. That was a big deal.
Looks like it's 2 against 1 right now. We're gonna have to get another guest on there. My final question, is there any particular piece of Colombian slang that you like? Is there a particular word? Is there a phrase,
a saying? Yeah.
We close our show off with who told it? It was either my aunt or his.
I think
aunt
it was my mom.
Someone.
Or it was.
We closed the show by going, "Al que no le gusta el caldo, se le dan tres tazas." That was something my aunt told me that Colombians say. Is there a phrase or a slogan or even a word, that you really
There is
like?
one. I love drinking with people. At the end of the day, I feel that's a way to connect a lot with people. But I hate drinking, for example, a beer or a cocktail or any. I love having shots. Why? I feel that when you're having shots, because you don't have only 1 or 2 shots, you usually have more, especially in Colombia. That's a way of just in that moment in time, just connecting with someone. And one of the phrases that I love is arriba, pa abajo, pa centro, y pa dentro.
Yeah, that's a classic, bro. That's there is something unifying about saying those words that makes you feel Colombian.
None of the other countries would have that if Colombia didn't have that saying. Yeah. So we really are probably the most perfect Spanish there is.
The progenitors of the best phrase to drink to, because that's stuff white people say. You'll see white people out here being like, arriba, pa abajo, pa centro, pa dentro. Or you're like, yeah, dude, that's, it's spread everywhere. Very cool. I like that. I think that's a very, very cool thing.
Jorge, thank you so much for doing this podcast. We know it's late there, so we're going to let you get going.
We're so sorry for keeping you. I've had a wonderful time, and if you're ever in Los Angeles, I'd love to buy you a beer.
Yeah.
And just sit down, and hang out with you.
You could come on the podcast in person. We'll do another round of this, and then we'll have some shots.
And, very cool, that, your daughter is going to have, the best of both worlds, all 3 worlds, and it's like, it's just cool to know that there are other Colombian people out there. So, thank you so much. And tell your friends, tell everybody if they, we would love to have more guests, more people with, different views.
Yeah. This is definitely going to be the first of many. I think I might ask Catalina next for one of these,
way through his family,
one of these Garavito interviews. So thank you for being our guinea pig, but it was fun. And it was a great time going with you on the vacation. You're amazing. Your family's amazing. And
we'll go on vacation soon. And then I'll be able to compliment you about how good vacation was.
Thank you.
Of course, Jorge.
Stop complimenting me, because I'm going to believe everything you're telling me.
Awesome. Right. Well, thank you so much, man. We really appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, George. Take it easy, man.
All right. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Jorge, for being on the show with us. You can find us at bingeonthischannel.com or on Instagram at bingeonthischannel.com. You can also find the Instagram page that we have coming up for this.
Yeah, it's Caldo de Risa
Pod. Yeah. On Instagram. Yeah. You can find Danny at Archilla on Instagram. You can find me at @thereal_Bryan TV. And as we always say, al que no le gusta el caldo, se le dan tres tazas. Give me a kiss.
All right, ciao for now.